Hello and welcome to another interactive Read Aloud. Today's Read Aloud book is The Smallest Girl in the Smallest Grade. This is written by Justin Roberts and the illustrations are by Christian Robertson. This is a wonderful book and I know you're going to learn a wonderful lesson as we read it today. But before we get started, I want you to notice something. First, look at the illustration here on the cover. I want you to really look closely at those kiddos. Look at their faces. Okay, now I'm going to turn to the title page. And I'm going to have you do the same thing. I want you to look closely at these kiddos' faces. What do you notice? What changed from our cover page to the title page? Well, you'll probably notice that their faces are a little bit different. Here on the cover, I'm seeing that kids are happy and smiling. They're all looking forward. Their hands are at their sides. Their teacher is gazing at them happily. But then, as I come to my title page, I see a different story. Most of my kiddos here in the front following the teacher are happy and smiling, but then look what's happening back here at the back of the line. Something not so good. I see a person shoving another person, and I see another kiddo's face is looking very mean. And I'm also noticing that my smallest girl, the main character here, is watching these children. I think we need to keep an eyeball on those kiddos as we go through our story today. As we're reading, I do have some vocabulary words for you, so we're noticing these words. Attention. Go ahead and say that with me. Attention. The next one is notice. Say it with me. Notice. And the last one is transform. Say it with me. Transform. Okay, so as I'm reading today, we'll stop and talk about these words. Attention, notice, and transform. Let's go ahead and get started. The smallest girl in the smallest grade. Hardly anyone noticed young Sally McCabe. We've already come across our first vocabulary word, haven't we? The word noticed. I think our illustration is going to help us a little here. First, let's find Sally in our picture. Remember, she's the smallest girl in the smallest grade. Can you find her? She's right there. Do you see how no one is playing with Sally? No one is even looking at Sally. Sally is all by herself. So when I say that hardly anyone noticed young Sally McCabe, I'm saying that hardly anyone is looking at her. They're not paying any attention to her. She's kind of just in the background. So let's look a little bit closer at this page. What is happening on the playground? Take a look here. What do you see happening on the playground? Is everyone having a good time? Or are you seeing some things that are mean that are happening? Let's go piece by piece in our playground. Here at the swing set, do you see anything wrong? No, they look happy. How about here on the slide? They look okay, but what about this one? That little boy is looking very mean, like he's about to shove or push that girl coming off the slide. Look over here with the ball. They have mean faces on. They must be in an argument, and they're not sharing that ball very well. The girl over here is jump roping. She's happy. Oh my, look what's happening at the hopscotch. Someone is pushing another person, and she looks very angry. So I'm seeing that some kiddos are playing nicely, but other kiddos are being mean in our playground. She was the smallest girl in the smallest grade. And remember, we're talking about Sally here. Can you find her in the desks? Right here. And we noticed that play on words, the smallest girl in the smallest grade. She definitely is. Everybody else is sitting up nice and tall at their desks, but she's so small that she can barely see over top of her desk. Sure, her name could be heard in the daily roll call, and she marched with her books down the same school hall. But hardly anyone noticed young Sally McCabe. There's that word noticed again. No one is looking at her. No one is paying attention. She is not being noticed. And they certainly didn't know, or at least they didn't mention, that Sally was paying super extra special attention. There's that word attention. That's our vocabulary word in this book. Attention. I bet you've heard this in school. Maybe your teacher has said, pay close attention, or make sure you're paying attention. That means that we're putting our mind on whatever task that we're doing. We're making sure we're putting our brain power on whatever we're doing. We're not daydreaming about what we're going to have for lunch or thinking about who I'm going to play with at recess. We're taking our attention and making sure it's focused. So Sally here is paying extra super special attention. But what we don't know yet is what she is paying attention to. Let's keep reading to see if we'll find out. To the abandoned kite with the tangled string, to the 27 keys on the janitor's ring, to the leaves as they turned green to gold in the fall, to the time Tommy Torino was tripped in the hall. And then on those pictures, they see everything that we just mentioned, all the things that she is paying attention to. She's noticing these things, this smallest girl in the smallest grade. Here are some more things she's paying attention to. She watched as the wildflowers tipped toward the light and heard the howl of a hound dog late one night. She was there when the stray cats who normally fought conducted a meeting in the church parking lot. She saw Kevin McCowan get pushed off a slide and the oncoming tears that he wanted to hide. There's Sally. She's watching what's happening. She's paying attention. And she'll never forget that parent-teacher day when Billy's much larger father suddenly dragged him away. She's paying attention. She's watching closely. But through all the mean words and all the cold stares, no one even noticed that Sally was there. And they certainly didn't know, or at least didn't mention, that Sally was paying super extra special attention. Can you find Sally on this page? She's kind of hard to see because she's so small. She's right here. And you see she's watching what's going on. She's paying attention. She'd seen how a whisper could make someone cower, like a bulldozer crushing through fields of wildflowers. And it kept piling up, this discarded debris, those beautiful kites tangled in trees. So, on February 3rd, at 11:29, Sally stepped straight out of the lunchroom line. Here's Sally. She stepped out of the line. What is she going to do? She said, "I'm tired of seeing this terrible stuff. Stop hurting each other. This is enough." And you see, here she is holding up her finger, just like she was doing where else? On the cover. She's holding up that finger in the air. Why is she doing that? Well, do you think that her speaking out and telling them that this is enough and stop hurting each other, do you think that speaking out and telling those kids that that's not right is going to help? I don't know. Let's read to find out. Now, A few laughed out loud, or didn't care, that there was some girl with her hand in the air. But then something super extra special happened that day, as Howard O. Henry suddenly set down his tray. Are you noticing some other children on this page that have their hand up just like Sally does? Do you think that those kiddos agree or disagree with Sally? They agree with her. They're saying, yeah, we should stop hurting each other. That's terrible. This is enough. Me too. I say that too. Like waves rolling in, one after another, first Molly rose up, then Michael's twin brother. It was Tyrone and Terence, then Amanda and Paul, who pushed out their chairs and stretched their arms tall. From the friendly lunch lady with the dishes she carted, to that new third-grade teacher who had only recently started. Yes, everyone there, even Principal Claire, had joined little Sally with their fingers in the air. They're all agreeing with Sally that, yeah, we need to stop hurting each other and being so terrible. That's enough. And though hound dogs were destined to howl at night, and most stray cat meetings would end up as fights, and kites would continue to get stuck in trees, they all felt, for a moment, like the janitor's keys, fastened together with a heavy steel ring that held all the secrets to unlock everything. As the world returned to the way that it was, Sally noticed the difference, as she usually does, when Billy paused briefly to open the door for Mrs. O'Connell and 17 more, or when Molly scooched over to make some space on the coral riser for Ellen and Grace. These moments that often get taken for granted, a wildflower appearing that no one has planted. The swings soon resumed their rhythm and sway, and day turned to night, and night turned to day. People remembered and would quite often mention that Sally had been paying super extra special attention, and how the world could transform and a change could be made by the smallest girl in the smallest grade. Transform is another one of our vocabulary words. Transform means to change. So who changed this school? Well, Sally, of course, the smallest girl in the smallest grade. She made a change that could better their school. So I want you to notice, what do you see now on the playground? Take a look here. I still have kiddos on the swings and on the slide, playing jump rope, hopscotch, and with that ball. Let's look at the difference from their very first page with this playground. And we're going to see if we can compare a couple things. Okay, let's look. So let's look at this page first. We have girls on swings, and we have the slide, and Sally's here by herself. Okay, now let's look at the other page. Okay, we still have girls swinging. All right. But now on my slide, I don't see anyone pushing and shoving or with mean faces anymore, do you? No. And look, Sally is not here anymore. She is gone. Okay, let's look back on the other page. Here, this is from the beginning. We have boys that are not sharing the ball. We have one girl playing jump rope by herself, and hopscotch being mean and pushing. Okay, let's look now at the other page. Okay, now I see the boys are sharing the ball. We have some friends to play jump rope together, and they're playing hopscotch together. Here is Sally. She has found a friend, and they're playing together. That is a much better picture than when we first started this book. So I have a couple of questions for you. First off, how did Sally's actions impact her friends at school? So how did Sally raising her hand and saying, "That is enough," how did that impact or change her friends at school? Well, by her standing up and saying, "We should stop being so mean," the kiddos then paused and said, "Yeah, you know what? We're really being mean to each other and we need to figure out a way to be kind." And they came together, and now they're figuring out that they can play together and have fun together without being mean. Second, what lesson can we learn from reading this book? When we read The Smallest Girl in the Smallest Grade, what lesson did you learn? Well, I learned that even though it can be hard and even though I might be small, I can still make a difference and remind people that we need to be kind to each other. No matter if we're big or small, it doesn't matter. We still need to be kind and not mean. Last one. How can this help us at school? How can The Smallest Girl in the Smallest Grade help us at school? Well, this is a great reminder for me to stand up for people who might be being bullied or might be feeling sad, or if I see something being unkind at school, I can help and step in and say, "That is enough. We need to be kind," and help the situation. All right. Let's do an extension activity. So today I want you to grab a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper I want you to fold it in half, just like this, like it's a card. And then when you open it up, I want you to label two things for me. The first thing on this side is unkind act at school, and the second side says what I can do about it. Okay, so on this side of the paper, I want you to think something that happens at school that you see that is unkind. Now you can use pictures, you can use words, you can use both, and you can draw or write that thing right here. What is something unkind that you see at school? Okay, once you're done with that side, then I want you to brainstorm over here. What is something you can do or say to fix that problem? Again, you can use pictures or words or both, and you can find a way to solve the problem. How can we fix this unkind act? How can we remind people to be kind to each other? Here's my example. I'll fold it in half so you see one half at a time. Okay, so my unkind act at school, I drew and wrote words as well. Kids talk over each other and interrupt. That's super unkind. When we're not waiting our turn, when we're talking over someone else and not letting them finish, that's very rude. So, what can I do about it? Remind them that they need to wait for their turn to speak. And I even drew my person with that finger up in the air, just like Sally did. So they're reminding them that, hey, we can only listen to one person at a time. Be nice and make sure you're waiting for your turn to speak. So there is my example. Go ahead and make your example, and if you'd like to come and give it to me, that would be awesome. I can hang them up somewhere. I hope you enjoyed our read aloud today, The Smallest Girl in the Smallest Grade, and I hope that you learned some great things that you can do in school to help us stay kind too.